How's that for big and fancy?
Ooh,
All right.
big.
Welcome, welcome, everybody. I want to welcome you to I changed the name of it. It's Sourcing Emotions, because you know what? They can come from anywhere. Inherited, absorbed, and created. So these are some of the things this is my family up here on the right-hand corner. I thought you might all get a kick out of seeing them. You see me back here up in the corner, and this is my mom and dad, who are both unfortunately no longer with us. But that was I just wanted to put that in there so that we can kind of see the progression. You know, these are things that you can inherit, and I find that it doesn't matter whether from my mom's side or my dad's side. The more I learn about my family, the more it makes sense when I start finding these emotions and stuff. The other thing is I have this chart here, and I should have put this out here as a regular picture. But this is one that I created way back when I first started. And you'll notice I had down there emotiontherapysolutions.com was I thought I was going to call myself. And then Dr. Nelson came out and said, really don't want you to put therapy in your names. And I thought, oh man, okay, so now I got to think of something else. So I ended up coming up with the body emotions. I'm going to mute everybody so that we can, hang on one sec, so we don't have the background noises. There we go. So now you just have to put up with my voice. Okay, so now everybody can still hear me, right? Thumbs up. Perfect, good. So I thought this was really helpful though when I put this graphic together to help people understand how those things can be inherited. Now we'll come back to this because I think it's worth coming back to, but for right now, let's go ahead and move forward to the first one here. And what I've got here is what are emotions. So if you go out on Google and you put in and find out what they are, I kind of dumbed it down here a little bit, but it's defined as a complex state of feeling that results in changes that affect or influence our thoughts and behaviors. Anybody else have a definition that they'd like to add to that, or you think that's good enough? That's good enough? Okay, so we'll move on here. But what I picture these emotions coming to me, that's the definition of what it is. But in reality, everything is energy. Everything is energy. I can't emphasize that enough. And these are specifically types of energies that are vibrating at a specific frequency. And they're balls of energy. And that's what denotes what they are. You know, I use this example a lot. When we look at, and I'm going to bring it on here real quick because I thought it would be helpful. We'll pop into the body code here, and we are going to go to energies and emotional. And here's that emotion code chart, right? Every one of these, and these are all, there's 60 different emotions here. All of them are bad. And I just thought, wow, what is it bad about it? It's low frequency. That was the thing about this, is the fact that it was low frequency. And usually your body uses the energies that you have they're building blocks, and they do whatever, you know, needs to be done in your body to help you out. But for some reason, these emotions are low frequency enough that your body says, yeah, I'm not sure I want to use these. And what they do is they become attached to you. Let's pop this off here just for a sec here. Make sure I've got, where was I going? Okay. So on this one here, when I talk to people, I say there's 60 different emotions here, and each one of them is at a different frequency. So give you an example. If you have, I compare it to colors. So if you have a house that you want to paint and you found the perfect color, and you take it down to Lowe's or Home Depot, they can actually analyze it, and they will give you what they call a hex code. In fact, if I go up here and I click on this little eyedropper up here and I say active picker, I think that should work. Okay, so now when I go around, you'll notice up here at the very top, it's telling you different types of codes. So right now it's over white. So the code is the £, and FFF. Or it could be, if it was in the RGBs, it would be 255, 255, 255. If I go down here, notice how those change. And that is the code that you would use, or they give you, when you go and you ask for a color of paint. And as long as you have that number, if you change, notice this one here, this is kind of a gray color here that it's picking up. It shows the color up here at the top on that bar, and it says #777B87. So you know that that is the specific code for that color. And it doesn't matter where I go. If I go over here, you'll see the change. Go down to, as I say, her lips right here. There we go, or somewhere in there. You'll see that it changes, and each time the code changes. It's a specific frequency that's happening. Now, the reason I put that on there, we'll just get out of it here, is because I want you to understand that every emotion, every energy has a code, has a frequency that it's vibrating at. So I use that color one. So when we look at this, that's when the body goes and it says, it looks at this chart and it says, if you're looking for the code for abandonment, it's going to be a certain frequency, and the body knows what frequency it is. So it'll match it up. Does that make sense so far? Okay, I just want you to realize that everything is energy and everything vibrates and associated with that frequency. So when we ask the body to say, tell us what's going on, if it finds abandonment or betrayal, it's because of that frequency that's matching up with that energy that's sitting out there stuck to you. So you get out there and you are looking at this, and it's a ball of energy that's vibrating at that frequency, and it'll actually stick to you, to either your consciousness, or it could stick to your part in the body, or it could also stick to your magnetic field. It could be as small as something that goes in behind the cornea of your eye. I remember the first time I ever discovered that something was in there, and it was an emotion, and it was stuck behind my eye, in the lens. So it just wants you to understand any kind of energy, not just emotions, comes to us this way. But these emotions are important to understand. So let me tell you why. Okay, so everything, pretty much, this is how the emotions affect us. And you can look at this as any kind of energy. Everything is about the flow of the body. So you've got a number of things that are going on in your body. And I remember going to a guy who I'd never been to, as a gift, actually. So it would have been, oh heck, almost 20 years ago. Somebody had given me a massage from this guy in Seattle. He was, I don't know what nationality he was, but he was Asian of some kind. And I got there and he started working on me. And I realized that what he was doing was actually looking at the flow of energy through my body. And I'm thinking, wow, this isn't just a massage. He was working the energy and breaking up parts that were keeping the flow of energy from going. I simply asked him, I said, you can actually see this energy, can't you? And he goes, yeah, I can see the energy. And I said, how did you learn to do that? He says, it was passed down through my family. He says, we've always been able to do this. And so that's when I realized that energy will flow through you just like electricity. And if the body isn't flowing, it's due to a buildup or something that's blocking. And that's what I put here. If it's not flowing, then it's due to a bottleneck, which is where, you know, things are trying to go through too small of a hole. There's a blockage, or it's misdirection. In other words, it's going the wrong way. And sometimes you'll find that chakras, instead of going clockwise, will actually be going counterclockwise. So once we understand what it is that the body has to have in order to function correctly, it's this energy flow. And I put down here, it's like emotional plaque. So like electrical acupuncture, your acupuncture systems is your electrical system. So it's just like, you know, a fuse box or whatever, but something shorts out. Something is blocking. Say you've got, you know, when we get the new little watches, they've got that little plastic tab that you have to pull out, so then it engages the battery with the clock, and so it starts to work. But it's the same type of way here, that sometimes these energies can get in the way and distort what is going on with the body. Everybody follow me so far? Am I making any sense? Good. So we've got blood flow, energy flow, digestive systems, you can name it, immune systems. Each one of those systems is set up so that it's supposed to flow a certain way. And so if we get these energies in there, it can mess with us. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get, is it's not only just emotions, but it can also be other energies or even toxins for that matter. I think toxins kind of come in and they're more like goo that gets stuck in there. But these balls of energy we're talking about there are emotions or energies that will mess up your body. So emotions, they come in all shapes and sizes. When you first learn all this about this stuff and you go through the certification processes, a lot of times what they're telling us is that it is about the size of a grapefruit or an orange or something like that, and will stick to you. And that was a surprise to me when I found out that it could be small to stick in underneath your cornea, or it could be a number of different places that you wouldn't expect. Sometimes they're huge, especially when the emotions come in the form of a psychic trauma, where a bunch of them will go together. So they vary in size, but if you think about it, anything that you put in a clump usually will be it's round in shape. And I found that that's pretty much it. Although what's really interesting is that when it starts to come out of your body, because that's what happens when the emotions are identified, they start to come out of your body. I find that I can find it, and then it grows and it grows and it grows, and I can actually feel it. And I have people do this. I say, okay, put your hand out. Nah, it's about 1.5 foot out there, and you should be able to feel that, and you should be able to feel the energy on the edges of your fingers. Maybe we'll try that when we get done with this. Remind me that we want to try some experiments here. Each has a specific vibration and can resonate with other like frequencies. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that, let's say that you have, a lot of times when you first start this, you think that when you're removing your heart wall or whatever that is you're working on, you find an emotion and it says taken for granted. And that might be the one that's coming up. Everybody has that one, it feels like. And you release it, and then you come against another one that says taken for granted. And the client goes, wait a minute, we just did that. I thought we removed all those. No, there could be a crap load of them. And you know what? As they come to you, they can stick to you in various parts of your body. And then when the new one comes, it can kind of go dormant unless it's an emotional resonance. So we'll walk through that. But it can kind of be dormant. And another one comes, and all of a sudden, this is vibrating. This one starts vibrating. Now you got 2 of them that are vibrating. And what if there's 3 or 4 or 20 of them? Sometimes, think about it, you can even feel like everything is just bugging me. And it's because something is resonating that you're going through right now that's activating these other ones that have been already come to you and have gone dormant. And now they're all resonating at the same time. Does that make sense? Okay, so I know that sometimes these things aren't until you experience it here. But it can also attach anywhere, but frequently it goes to the weakest part of your body. Now, when I first started thinking about this, and I've used this example before, you think about, I talk about it being like a barnacle on the bottom of a boat. Well, it appears that barnacles will come and they'll attach, and then other barnacles will come along and they like to attach in the same area. They're kind of clump, and they'll all kind of get in there where pretty soon there's certain areas that are encumbered. And I've got some pictures, I should have put those in there, but of course you got to have water that the barnacles will grow in, but it had showed the whole bottom of the boat, and even the motor that was in there had barnacles on it, and it was so tight in there that the motor wouldn't even turn anymore because the barnacles were on the blades on the propeller. Crazy stuff. So we talk about the different kinds of emotions that we can find, and a lot of times people are surprised when they find out that they have inherited emotions. Now, they usually show up when we are doing the clearing for the heart wall. The heart wall is usually where that shows up. And they're usually trapped or emotional resonance energy. Now, we could say that about any kind of an emotion, but that's usually what we find is trapped emotions. I find a lot of emotional resonance energies which are trapped emotions that are still vibrating, like kind of like what I was talking about before. Now the body, when it has to protect something, it'll go and it'll try and figure out, what can I use? Now, it likes good energies because it uses it to keep the body powered and to function. But when it's looking for something to protect or build a wall out of, that's usually when it looks around and says, oh, there's an emotion I can use because I can't use it anywhere else. And it uses it to help build the barriers or the walls. Once again, the barrier is something that keeps you out, but a wall keeps everybody else out. So I use that as a definition between the two of them. And usually we identify these by the use of the emotion code chart, which we have right here. So this is an emotion code chart. And so that helps us to be able to be aware of where we go. Of course, we use muscle testing to do that, but it will tell us, you know, the subconscious will communicate and tell us the frequency and also which emotion it is. So using that, oh, here, let's just talk about this real quick, because when you come to this chart, and even if you're using my chart, you'll see that there's trapped emotions, there's the heart wall, and then there's emotional resonance. So these are the two that I usually work with. With a trapped emotion, if we click on this, it takes us to a chart that shows us that it could be prenatal, it could be preconception, or it could be inherited. And we kind of talked a little bit about the inherited, where it can come and actually pass down through the generations. Did we talk about that? I think we did, didn't we? Let's see. Let me back this off real quick here and we'll look. Yeah, we're on it right now. Yay! and what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up to that picture that we started off with my family. So here's my dad and my mom and my brothers and sisters. Now there's 8 of us total, but you've got some spouses in here on this one. There's a couple, there's 3 spouses. I think that's 3. Yeah, 3 of these are spouses. So there's 8 kids. Now my youngest brother passed away when he was a baby, so 7 of us still living. And you'll notice that when I got this little graphic here, the lineal release pattern, you'll notice that it started this particular emotion. And when I track this stuff, this is when I find the emotion, I'll ask, is it inherited, or, I think I'll go into this a little bit later, I'll ask if it's inherited, and if it is, then I find out, is it on mom's side or is it on dad's side? Did he get it from his dad or his mom? Did she get it from whomever? And I keep going back. And you'll see right under where it says lineal release pattern, you'll see FMF plus C2, 3. Now what this means, it's underneath here, it means father, grandmother, great-grandfather, plus child number 2 and 3. That's my short, my short code for knowing where this emotion came from. And if we look at it on here, if you've got a genealogical sheet or something like that, something happened to this great-grandfather up here. Is this the right one? Or did I go too far? Let's see, did I go far enough? Okay, so we went, oh yeah, we went far enough. Okay, so this is my great-grandfather who passed it to my grandmother, who passed it to my father, who passed it to me, and I passed it down to child 2 and 3. Does that make sense? Does it help to see the graphic here? Now here's something that could have happened that I don't have on here, is that my great-grandfather, when he passed it to my grandmother, my grandmother, it could have gone sideways. So she may have had more kids, and so it could have gone to them also, and that's what I call it. I call it sideways, where that energy goes to other areas. And you can have, sometimes when I go back multiple generations, we can have as many as 250, or 2,500 people or more involved in that particular energy that was strong enough that went to all those people. So when you're doing this work and you find that somebody's got multiple generations back there, then that makes a huge difference when you release it from everybody. Everybody who's willing or able to release it at that time will get the benefit from it. Okay, so let's go here. Next one is, I put this down here is because sometimes we get an emotion and we're trying to figure out, shoot, where the heck did this thing come from? And it's actually absorbed from something else. So there's a number of ways you can receive, things are interacting around you all the time. And you sometimes can absorb these, and they can come from people, or they can even come from animals. Now, I firmly believe that animals are fantastic because they sometimes pull the emotion and help you with your burden. And you'll notice that, the bond that you have with your animal sometimes is pretty darn strong. And when you're down, they feel down. And when you're happy, they feel happy. The crazy thing is, I firmly believe that your animals can actually see different frequencies. Remember, they can see better. Sometimes they can see the entities that are around you, and they can help you and protect you. And sometimes you'll hear them barking or meowing, and you go out and you go, what the heck are you barking at? And yet then you find out you got entities in the house. You got spirits are in there somewhere. So animals are fantastic, and sometimes we can absorb it from their suffering. It can also come from situations. Now, that being said, any energy can come from any of these sources, but we're talking mainly about emotions today. So if you go through, let's say at work, you find out you're closing down. The company went bankrupt. Now you don't have a job, or they did a big downsize, and the people that are still there, I mean, there's just emotion going on everywhere. No one person gave you that emotion, but from that situation, you were all affected. You follow what I'm saying there? Okay, so, and this can become even a curse. It can become a curse if, for some reason, let's say you decided to quit, or you were fired, and you burned your bridges. And I saw a commercial the other night where the woman comes in with a beautiful little cake, and she says, "Cake in the conference room," and everybody comes in, and she puts the cake down and says, "I quit." Okay, so, and everybody had cake, but that was her way of doing it. She opened up her own little cake shop. So that was why she was quitting. But sometimes you can burn your bridges. Sometimes, if you get into being blacklisted, for example, back in the days of Hollywood, when somebody was blacklisted, it didn't matter where you went, everybody knew, don't hire that guy. Well, that becomes a curse in some ways. So just remember that situations can affect you in a number of different ways. You can find out when they came to the client. Now, this is where I talk about finding out time frames. Now, do you have to do all this stuff? Absolutely not. You can just simply go in and release them. For me, I like to know more. And so what I do is I'll literally, let's see if I can bring this over here. Here's my age chart, and I need to zap it down just a little bit here because it's way too big for you to see on this one. Let me slide this over. We'll put the view down to, let's see, where are we at now? Let's go to 75 and see if that makes enough difference. Yeah, can you see that now? Can you even read it? It doesn't matter if you read it so much, but when I am doing a session with somebody, I like to know when something happened. So I go over here and I plug in their age. Here I was working with somebody who was 40, obviously on the last one here. And so when I plug that in, even if, let's just say 50, let's change it. So watch what happens to the yellow bar. See how it changed? It automatically adjusted to be 50 now. So I know that when this person was born, it was 1970. And so what I do is I always find out, for me, I find out how many years ago did this emotion come to you. Now, with an inherited one, you wouldn't be needing to do that, because an inherited one, you have it when you're born. But if you absorbed it, or you had it, you created it yourself, which we'll talk about in a sec, then that's when we can go back and we can kind of identify. Let's say it was 30 years ago. So we go back there, nice easy numbers. So I go back over here to 30, which is right here. I know now that it's in 1990, and they were 20 years old. Now, why in the world would I want to know that information? Let's go to the, oops, I went to the wrong thing here. Hang on. Let's go down another one here. like I said, experiences most of the time. There's a difference between men and women when you identify the age bracket. Now, Dr. Nelson, who is fantastic, I love him, and I followed him completely until I got to the point when I was working with another guy, and I was trying to figure out when that happened, because he goes by age. He'll actually split it, and he'll say, if the person's 50, say, okay, was it before you were 25 or after? Now, the benefit of this is you don't need to know, you don't have to have a chart, you don't have to write this stuff down, so it makes it really simple to do it. But what I found was that, okay, so if it was me, and I turned 63 tomorrow, if it was me and I said that this was 32 years before, was it before 32 years or after 32 years? And I'm sitting there looking at these numbers, and I'm thinking, okay, so let's say it was 24 years ago, and I'm thinking, I don't know how old I was. Even if I was 24, I don't remember what year it was. But if I go back here and I simply ask, how many years ago was this? And if I was 24 and it says 26 years ago, oh, well, I would have to put 63 in here. Let me put 63 in here. Okay, so now it goes 25. Okay, so I was 24 39 years ago. Even further, makes me feel older. Anyway, so it's 39 years ago. I can look here and I can say, oh, that was 1981. Oh, I remember 1981. Guys think differently. Women usually look for ages. I had my child on this. I was this old, and I calculate everything, by that age bracket. For guys, we like to know what year it is. So I created this chart just so that I could have all the information I would need at my fingertips. And so when I'm doing this, I put it on another screen, or I have another one. Oh, which reminds me, we need to put a new one out there for 2020, don't we? For those people, the ultimate healers. So you can print out a new timesheet. Now I can just go and I can look and say, 8 years ago is 2012, I was 55. The other nice thing is over here, if I need to know what grade was I in at age 9 to 10, I'm going, oh, I was in 4th grade. Or if I know that it was when I was 5, it was 1962, I can go over here and I can say, 1962, I was either in preschool or I was in kindergarten. And I can simply test and ask and find out where I was. It might help you in your effort to try and identify what's going on. These over here on the right side, months, if it's within the last year or the last 2 years, I'll say, okay, 22 months ago, oh, that was in May of 2018. Once again, just simply identify. And weeks ago, I can also do weeks. And a few other things that I might use. But that's for identifying when these things come. And the reason I do that sometimes is because, like I mentioned before, we'll have this taken for granted, and we'll say, well, we just released a taken for granted. Well, this was in, 2013, and this one was in 2009. And you'll go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. It's not that you need to have it, but sometimes it helps for the clarity of what you're doing. That makes sense? Okay, so what's next here? How do you release these emotions? Now, most of you know, and if you've worked with me, you know that we do this, I do mostly through intention, but when you're first learning, we talked about using magnets, and I went out and I bought the Nikon magnets. I had the Mag Boy, the 2 magnets, and they say they go over the top of your head. And then I bought this Mag Creator. I drove a long ways to pick this one up. Then you run it down the back, and everybody likes the massage, but it's the nice roller that's got the magnets in it. Then if you've got somebody that you're working with and they have a pacemaker, then a lot of times you're going to want to use a crystal if you're actually using something to run down their back. And usually what you do is you're doing this governing meridian from your upper lip all the way over the top of your head, down to your tailbone. Now, anywhere along that line can work, and I know when I first started, I was using a magnet and I was going over the top of my head like this to release. You're releasing from here, up and over. If you were going to install something, you'd go the opposite direction. And I remember being on an airplane, telling the person next to me what I did, and she said, well, can you do a session on me? Can you help me with this? And I'm thinking, okay. At that point, I think I was only using the emotion code. So I was using the emotion code, and so I only had to have this one little chart It looks, which is what we're talking about here. Is the emotion code chart. As I was doing the work, then I would go releasing it over my head. And I'm thinking, I probably look like an idiot to somebody else who's sitting over across the street. What is that guy doing? And I would also work on people when I was traveling because I could. But I only thought that was the only way you could release. But you can also use your fingers, which is what I normally do nowadays anyway. But you can also do it through intention. And then the other thing that you can do, and let me just stop my share real quick so that I can show you. A lot of times what I do is I use the reflexology. So remember I said it's going up over your head all the way down to your tailbone. This is your hand, reflexology. The center finger is the same as running it down that governing meridian on your acupuncture meridian. So I would go like this to release it, or usually it's more like this. I'd use a magnet, and I used a lot of those little cheap ones. In fact, my wife worked for a medical company as promoting it, and she had these little magnets that you stick on the, your file cabinet stuff. In fact, this is a magnet also that Dr. Nelson has. And so I would just use this to release. And by the end of the day, after doing 8 sessions, I would find that I got a little dark streak along here because these are cheap magnets and they would wear off. And then I realized that you don't even have to do that. All you have to do is have the intention to release. And so I actually just tap. And I don't use a magnet at all at this point. And so if this is on my, it doesn't have to be wood or anything, I just tap to release. And while I'm tapping, I envision releasing this energy. And then when I feel it release, and I can usually feel them, then I know that that's released. Does that make sense so far? We're good? Okay, so let me go back to my chart, or my screens here. Okay, so here's where I want you to chime in, and let's see what else we need to know. What questions do you have about this particular issue? Let me zap out of it here again, and we'll stop the share. So give me some suggestions. There's quite a few of you out there. What questions might you have?
Tom?
Yes, I can always count on you, Linda.
Yeah. I was just curious when you said that now you just tap on the table and you use your intention and you visualize. So give me an example of what are you visualizing in your mind?
So before, I think a lot of times when we're going through, first time I ever did this, I visualized myself going this way with a magnet, because I was in it was a fathers and son outing, and I'm sitting there, and there must have been 50, 70 people milling around me, and I'm going, I'm not going to sit here and go like this. And so I thought, well, can I just pretend I'm doing it? And I tested. I test for it. And I said, however you test, and it said yes, it was good and strong, and it said yes, you can do that, and it will work. And I'm going, oh, okay. So I just envisioned the energy clearing. Well, as I worked with this, I realized more and more that I actually connect with the people that I'm doing the work for. And a lot of times I'll just close my eyes and I'll just allow that energy to release. I don't even have to tap. All I have to do is it just gives me something that notifies me in a way that simply says, okay, it's releasing. Now, if you come to my office, I still will use the mag creator, and you'll get a back rub as I'm releasing the magnet. But I'm still inside, I'm just allowing it to release. Let me tell you what's really happening. And this is the cool part about it. I thought it was all about me being able to do stuff before, and in reality, it has nothing to do with me, except for the fact that I'm facilitating. So when you identify something, you have found an emotion that is there, or it's trapped, or it's resonating. Once you've identified it, what happens is the subconscious, remember it's all about the subconscious, helping you define that. The subconscious says, okay, so now Linda knows what's going on. I'm willing to release it. So the subconscious is really the part that releases it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm facilitating, but because I'm connected to you, because I'm listening to your subconscious and I'm testing on your behalf, then I actually feel that energy most of the time. Now, if I'm not as in tune or whatever, I may not for that particular time, but most of the time I can feel it. And a lot of times I go, wow, that's a lot of energy releasing, because I can feel the body's finally saying, okay, I can give this up. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm just envisioning the clearing. I'm just letting it just go. And a lot of times I can even feel the direction that it's going. Sometimes it goes through my head. Today I had someone, I was yawning all day. It was affecting me with yawns. And so every time I just like, oh, okay, to cover my mouth, because that was the way the energy was releasing. And sometimes I'll do one, I just feel the energy. The next one will be yawns, and the next one I'll feel the energy again. So you never know how it's going to come, or release, I should say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so to clarify, when you say it's lifting, is it lifting literally like from your neck through your head, or do you feel like a lifting through your whole body?
Depends on the energy, and depends on where it was located. Now, technically, you would be able to actually find each and every energy if you wanted to take the time to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, what I do is I use a chart that, I'll just hold it up here for you, that looks like this. And what it does, that you see the one with the two people there, mm-hmm. One is the front and one is the back.
Right.
Okay. And so what I do is you'll see that it's labeled. So I actually have them pull a little closer here. One is 1 through 10 down the side, and A through whatever that is on the far side. So I will ask, where is this located? If I needed to, say I got somebody who's got a real issue with a stomach issue or something, and I find a big monster emotion there, or a psychic trauma hybrid energy sitting there. And I'll say, where is that located? And it'll tell me that, yeah, it's on the front, it's down in this area. And I'll go, okay, you could find out where each one of those was. Now, when I identify it, now if you're doing a heart wall, almost all of them are in your chest area. Mm-hmm. Now, when you identify it, a lot of times what happens is that energy will start to go out. I mentioned this before. And sometimes it gets all the way out, and I can barely touch it. And it might be something that's really big, like shame or abandonment or betrayal. But all of them, they're different sizes, and they will come out. And what I do is I say, you want to get freaked out? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, okay, let's find one. And I ask the body, I say, give me one right here. Because they could be on your back, they could be on your head, could be out your butt, it could be anywhere. And so I want one that they can feel. And a lot of them are in your back. So I find, okay, so if I'm doing heart walls, I say, okay, so give me an emotion that is in the front, right in the center, because I want to be able to identify it. So once I do that, then I know where to look, and I can start to hunt for that. So on myself, let's just do that real quick. Is there a trapped emotion that I'm holding right here in front of me? And the answer is yes. Well, there we go. Is it in column A, column B, even, 2, 4, depression, it's frustration. So I know that frustration is right here. So now what I do is I sit there and I'm trying to find the frustration. There it is. Okay, so frustration for me is right there. And if you went this direction, it cuts right in the center, right where I thought it would be. And so as I talk about it, and I'm actually feeling it, it's going out further and further as I talk about it, because that energy is coming out. Now, if I want to release it, I can just tap. Here, I'll tap over here. So I'm just going to tap and release this energy completely and fully, all levels, dimensions, realities, parts, generations, deepest root and cause. Now, in my mind, I don't always say that out loud. I just keep that in my mind. And there, I can feel that whole whoosh. Now, did I get that energy? So I'm testing now. Did I get that energy? And it says yes. So now when I go here, I'm trying to find it. I know where it was before, and now it's completely gone. I did this yesterday with a guy, freaked him out. He came and he didn't really believe in what I was doing. It made it kind of crazy for him when I helped him with the sway test to see if, to show him what was going on. The sway test is a way of testing your body. So he was standing up and I said, okay, so say your name He said his name, and he stood there, and then he kind of went, whoa. And I'm going, oh my gosh, so he's moving forward. Okay, I said, now say my name. I say, my name is Tom. And he said that, and all of a sudden he went back, and his eyes got really big, and he says, whoa, you mean this stuff is real? And so we actually ended up doing a little session on him and releasing energy. But I did the testing to help him understand how that works. So just remember that what you're doing, it doesn't matter how it releases. For some people, we've got one ultimate healer that when she releases, she burps. And another person will yawn. I yawn a lot. And I just try to make sure that I'm not bored. I'm not trying to diss you in any way. I'm just really allowing this energy to release.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You
very
bet.
much.
Another question about this, guys. Who else? Oh, come on. You got to have some questions.
Tom, I got a question.
Sure.
Okay, so there's been times when I've been removing things from Glenda or her son, and they'll be inherited trapped emotion, and then I'll ask who is it from, and sometimes it'll say both mother and father. But so that's obviously two separate ones coming.
I think so.
Yeah, so they actually got it not once but twice.
Yeah, well, you remember they can layer in too. So you can get more than one of the same kind. And sometimes we'll go through and I'll release it from one person, from one family member. Say if this is from your mom's side. And we'll go ahead and we'll release it and we'll go, oh yeah, man, that makes so much sense on this. And then we'll come back a little bit later, it's on dad's side. And we'll find that they both had the same type of things. And once again, remember, it's all frequencies. So they're going to resonate and sometimes they combine. The crazy thing is when you get somebody, you try and figure out, was this inherited? No. Okay, is this yours? No. And I thought, what the heck's going on? That's when I realized that it was absorbed. So it can be absorbed, and you can actually absorb this from a location that you go to. Ever feel like you got a weird feeling when you go somewhere and you're just like, I come here and we're all depressed. And it's because that facility could also have that overriding feeling. Now, somebody else, he's not here tonight, so you can also work with a group. This could come from a group, could come from a church group of people you work with. We talked a little bit about that, say the company's closing down. But you can actually clear, and this is how you would clear a business. A business could have an energy that's blocking, and it could be an emotion. Sometimes, a lot of times it's a sign, it's a broadcast message saying, don't trust me, or we're not safe, or, and that, you feel that when you walk into a business sometimes, it's like, or a restaurant, even worse. You used to walk into a restaurant and you go, I think we'll go to the next one, because it's just, sometimes you're willing to wait because the feeling is so good. But then other times you walk in and you go, I think I know why no one's here. And that's something to think about, that these energies are everywhere. And it's not something to be afraid of. It's something to just be aware of. Okay, so what other questions have you got?
Tom?
Yeah. Ask away, my dear.
When you're saying that you visualize the energy releasing, you were going like this, is it always this way that it
Nope.
releases, or this
Nope.
way?
Nope. Everybody releases a little bit different. I had somebody yesterday, same guy. So we released some stuff from him, and he was standing there, and I always think, okay, so, because I always tell everybody when we do a session, I always tell them, I say, you've got to make sure that, 80% of the time, 80 to 90% of the time, you're going to feel better. You're just going to have, maybe feel lighter, and things are going to go on. You're going to, things are going to slide off easier. Nothing's going to affect you. But sometimes things are worse than they were before. And then I always kind of say, so if you've got something that you need to, it's just not, it's hurting, something is hurting, it's not releasing correctly. A lot of times it's because the energy is trying to release and it can't get out. It could be this way, it could be that. I got people that release through their butt. Some people release through their feet. This guy yesterday, he released through his feet. And I said, your feet are warm right now. He goes, yeah. He says, this is really weird. And I said, that's because you released through your feet. So it could be going down, it could be sideways, it can go out. I release through my chest, actually, and through my back. And some people release through their head. I had one lady release right through in the back of her head, and we did a heart wall release, and we hadn't finished it completely, but we did everything we could at the time. She was fine, felt great. The next morning she woke up, she felt great. She went to work, she started to get a little bit of a headache. And then by the afternoon, it was a migraine. And it was because she released right here. And you think about it, all that energy is going up there and it can't get out. It was blocked. So once she got a hold of me, she texted me. That's what I tell everybody, get up, text me, send me an email. Within 10 minutes, that pain was gone, which is pretty cool when it comes to headaches. Okay, so got a question here too. When you use your fingers, do you have to use the tips of your fingers or the palms of your hand? Excellent question. I always use the tips. Can you use the palms? Absolutely. So you think about Reiki. I don't know how many people are familiar with Reiki, but you actually have the attunements in your hands. Okay, and that's a big thing. So I use my whole hands. I don't. I suppose you could use your elbows if you only had elbows. But once again, it's intention, it's focus. Sandra, did you have a question?
Yes. Do you hear me?
I can hear you. Fine. I'd love to see you. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Did you say about the lady that she was blocked from here? Do you release the emotions again, or what do you do?
What I did was I went in, because you don't have to, I've already been connected to her once before. And with quantum physics, it's kind of crazy in that once you have made a connection, it's really simple to connect again. But I find that I can connect to somebody automatically. Just your body will tend to do that. And you don't have to practice very hard to do that. So what I did with her, we never talked. We just were texting on the phone. And she said, my headache, I haven't had this maybe twice in my life. And I said, okay, hang on a sec. And so what I did was I kind of just took aside and I checked. There's a couple things I checked. First of all is there a block? Because if there's something blocking it, that makes sense that the energy can't get out. And the other thing sometimes that happens is the hole's too small. So, it's starting to go out in mass, and it's just like there's so much there, it only goes out a little bit at a time. Does that make sense? So for what you're asking, I never even talked to her. I simply did a mini session, and you know what? You can get the app on your phone, or even, Dr. Nelson's emotion code chart is free. The app is free. All you got to do is go out there and you can get it and sign up for it, request it. And then you can use that. And I believe, I can't remember exactly what we were doing at the time. It's been a while since that person, but it doesn't matter. It could be anybody. It could be my leg, and my pain in my leg won't go away. I find that probably has to do with where they're releasing and the fact that there's a problem. Now, sometimes it can actually be blocked by entities. And that's what had happened to her also. She had some entities. I released the entities. Within 10 minutes, the energy had been able to release enough that the pain was gone. Did that answer your question, Sandra?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Good to see you.
That's good, thank you.
David, did you have something? Oh, okay. So,
Yes, I had another question related to absorbing. Is there a way to help people stop from absorbing other people's energies?
yeah, we talked about that a little bit at the shielding class that we did last time, 2 weeks ago. So if you didn't watch that, you can go out there on the line and watch that shielding. You can use a shield as a filter. But once again, I mean, you can't see this right now. I wonder what I did with that picture. Oh, it's still on my phone. Right now I have 4 screens over on this side that I'm using to do this work. And then I have 3 screens on my laptop over here to do process videos. And for those that were, I don't know if we got anybody on here, it was at the MasterMind Summit. I'm still working on the videos. I mean, I have a lot of EMP going on here. And, you know, this will be the same as anybody else who was out there who was really toxic. In fact, you know, we talked about this before, no names to be mentioned, but there's a group that met and there was one person who was a toxic person who affected the whole group. that happens frequently. You get somebody in there, I mean, any group that you go to, and you're meeting together and you got one person who's just off, it just makes it miserable for everybody. And what happens is sometimes you bring that energy back with you. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about, I know. And so if you build this shield with intention to help you avoid that, I think it makes a big difference. The coronavirus, you know, hopefully everybody's out there saying, you know, we want to make sure the shield is up so that we don't get this thing that's being projected. I mean, it's I don't know if it's the hype, I don't know what it is, but you know, those of us that are over 60, you know, they say we're the ones that are targeted, not so much the younger ones. But I think that, and in fact, everybody I've been working with lately, I've been checking their immune system to see where's your immune system at. You know, are you high enough? So, did that answer your question, David? Build a shield, I think, is the best thing, and also with intention, think of protection.
What did you do for the immune system? Did you say, are you 100% good
I
for the immunity?
I try and find a percentage. Yeah, usually what I'll do is I'll say, so what percentage is your immune system functioning at? And then I'll always start at 50. Is it higher than 50? Yes, okay. So is it higher than 60? Is it higher than 70? Is it higher than 80? Is it higher than 90? Oh, okay, so is it more than 85? 84, 83, 82. Okay, is this mine? Mine's at 82%. So that tells me maybe I need to do a session on myself. You know, but you could also have it show up as 30%. I've had it, one person, it was at 0. And this was a person that was contacting me. We were only able to communicate through Facebook Messenger. And they were actually in the country of Burma at the time. I got panicked because this was my brother. And I said, okay, so I'm going to start doing sessions every day on him, small ones, because you can't just crank him in there. You make him sick if you do too much. So I would just do little partial sessions, little mini sessions, until we were able to bring him back up. And by the time he got home, his immune system was back up there. So that's something to check. You can check all the immune systems if you want to. Or all the systems, actually, not just the immune system. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Glenda, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you real quick. You had said something about being able to sign up for a free emotion code application from Dr. Brad. What is that?
It's on the App Store. You want Discover Healing. Let's see if I can find it quick on my phone here. Okay,
You said the free app on for emotion code?
Yep.
But you could just explain what is it. You don't have to actually go there. It's okay.
Yeah, no, what I was going to do, basically what it does is it comes up and it just brings you that chart.
Oh, so the chart's online is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes, the chart is online. And here's what it looks like. The emotion code. So it comes up and it will actually look like this.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought it was something different than what I already have. Okay, I've got that.
You've got
Thanks.
that. Okay, yeah. And that's a free app. It's got, you know, it tells you on the left side all of the areas where the emotions would come from. And then it lists out the 60 emotions. And they do have the secret world of trapped emotions. He's got more stuff on there that you can learn about too. But the main thing is that he's got that out there. Now, the new app for the body code, they've been having some glitches and things apparently, so they haven't got it out there yet for those that are looking for that. Okay, so anything else, Linda? Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You betcha. Any other questions? Is this helpful for you tonight?
So about the absorbed emotions, are you basically just releasing those just like you would any other regular emotion?
Yeah, the only thing that's different about an absorbed is the source.
Okay.
Because you're still being affected by whatever it is that, you know, attacked you in the first place, let's put it that way, or you're dealing with. Now, once again, remember what these are, and just think about the flow of the bloodstream, okay? So you got the blood going through the heart and going out through the whole body. So if you know, somebody gets a heart attack, it's usually because there's plaque that builds up in a certain area. And what they're doing with a stent even is increasing the size for the blood to go through, right?
Uh-huh.
So all that plaque in there could be emotions, whether something's built up over time in the liver, in the kidneys. In fact, one of the things they talk about when that energy gets in there becomes static or stagnant, or not static, it becomes stagnant. And it can build up, and that is the things, a lot of times that can cause an imbalance in the body that will create cancer or some kind of disease that was all emotionally based to start off with. Dr. Nelson talks about a woman who he was working on, and she had had a mastectomy and on one of the breasts. And they were working through, she found that the reason that had happened was, and of course they didn't know at the time, but as he was working with her, she had been really struck when President Kennedy had been murdered and been assassinated. And then his brother, shortly after. She was just so struck that it affected her so much that that energy right there had affected her breast to the point where the cancer had come in there, and that could have been resolved. I know that, was it Angelina Jolie just had mastectomies on both sides because there was a possibility of that happening. Well, had she gone through, this could have been cleared. I firmly believe that. That's my belief. Now, me personally, my father passed away at age 62 from, I believe it was a miasm. In other words, that's an inherited disease energy that he got from his dad, who got that from his dad, and right back through there. When I tested, I had the same miasm. I got rid of that miasm because I didn't want to pass it. I didn't want to participate in the 62 thing, but also to make sure my son was cleared and my grandsons were cleared. So, there's different things that these energies can clog us up, and when we have these emotions in there, it can be passed on, and it can be just as deadly, let's put it that way, or affect you in other ways. Does that make sense? Did I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet with everybody again. I love seeing y'all. I love all of you guys. It's really a lot of fun to do this work. And if it's a benefit to you, I enjoy doing that also. If you have any questions, obviously just send me an email or whatever, and text me. So I'll let you go if there's nothing else.